Life and postpartum is a very humbling phase. And in the midst of my fog, my inability to recount anything that's happened in the last 10 months outside of my daughter's milestones, we're here, we're showing up. And I was reflecting with the Lord around not wasting my weight. Ambition has been checked at the door. My 3 to 5 year plan, I haven't had one of those in about 3 to 5 years. Each day, I'm just here. I'm just taking steps daily in the direction in which I believe God is calling me to be in, even in the midst of the silence. The last 10 months have been such a silent, and a part of me has been struggling with the trauma of delivery, the challenges of postpartum, the hormonal aspect, navigating the postpartum depression and the postpartum anxiety. And I was in the kitchen the other day and I'm feeling this spark return. I'm feeling myself getting back to the place of at least seeking God, at least being in my word, at least wanting to hear sermons and scriptures and listen to worship music because it's been real quiet, if I'm very honest. And it was almost as like I heard the Lord say, what if the silence was a part of my plan? What if the distance was to grow me in a place of maturity? And then I clicked on a basement podcast, which I haven't engaged with the basement podcast in well over a year, with this interview with Michael Bethany. He's talking about maturity and yielding to God and God telling us what to do. But he gets to this part where they're talking about, God, I'm building for you. This is what you told me to do. And it's like, yeah, that's cute. But what if God's saying, if you trust me to go, do you trust me when it's time to leave? Now, I moved to Texas by faith in 2021 because I believe that's what the Lord wanted me to do. I believe that the next now was tied to my obedience to be willing to move halfway across the country by myself. Ended up meeting my husband 5 months after that moment on a dating app. And then he moved from New York to Texas in 2022. We did the courtship, the marriage counseling, got married. And the transition has just been a roller coaster. I hadn't really got my bearings. I hadn't really settled into marriage. And then we welcomed a child. And it's just all of these new transitions. You move, you get married, you have a kid, and then you move again. And I felt like the Lord told us to move closer to family. And I have been wrestling with this decision of moving back home solely because I felt like God told me to go. I felt like that was where I was supposed to be. As the fog is lifting, you wonder, was this the decision that I was supposed to make? And then I clicked on this podcast episode and God is like, trust me to go. Trust me when it's time for you to leave. And I immediately felt the peace of God. And the Lord has had me just recounting parts of my testimony of how he used this breakup in 2018 to usher me into his presence, to usher me into a place of surrender, to usher me into a place of awakened desire. Motherhood was not something that I personally desired. And he awakened that desire and then said, here, give it to me. I had to grieve what that relationship represented because that desire was awakened in me. And even in the grief, I wanted God more. So I used that to move forward, show up, see God, to become who it is that God has called me to be. And what happens in that tension of being in between who you were and who you are becoming? You're in the middle. These middle moments shape us. The work happens in the mundane. And I'm just thinking about being called to do my internship, the relationship ending the day I get to Charlotte, and then feeling like the Lord is calling me to Texas. And if you're going to use law school to get me there, I'm studying for the LSAT. And you open this door for me to work at an intellectual property law firm. I apply to be a legal assistant. And you basically tell me, Lord, that they're going to pull up my design skills. And my supervisor at the time hires me as a designer for me to gain whatever skill set I needed before she let me go 2 days before my wedding. Or remembering that you told me during that internship season when I had to lay that desire of marriage back on the altar after you awakened it, that as quick as I got married would be as quick as I have children, because children are pivotal for what it is that you've called me to build. And maybe that's why I don't feel like I've created something sustainable, because my child needs to be in the midst of whatever it is that you're telling me to put my hand to. But so much has changed. I am not the same. marriage and motherhood and transition affect your identity, affect your who you think you are and how you believe you're supposed to show up in the world. And I don't really know how I'm supposed to show up in the world outside of speaking and creating and writing my way through these moments, trying to even get back to design, which has been this tug of war. Like, I was this ambitious person who wanted to be the highest in the field of design until I didn't, until I don't, until it doesn't even matter anymore. The accolades don't matter. It's really surviving the day to day, finding joy in the day to day, to know that when I got married, remembering the word that you gave me, getting pregnant, and feeling like at 6 weeks I was going through a miscarriage. And I keep milestones and important moments very private. I keep it very incubated to protect them in their infancy phase, because I want to know that the people I share it with are going to pray and cover and help me through it with the Lord. That the night before we had to go in for an emergency appointment just to make sure everything was okay, that the Lord told me that this was a season of joy and a continuation of what he was already doing. And that joy is a position, a posture, and a decision. Being in position to receive, posturing our heart to accept it, to experiencing it, making the decision daily, taking those thoughts that don't align with who God says we are or who God is, showing up from that place of being a decided individual. My pregnancy was very joyous. My child is full of joy, as strong willed as she is, the fruit of that word in that season. And now we're back in this place where God is reminding me that the wait was worth it, and to not waste the wait, that he was with me every step of the way, starting with the place of remembrance, that this is the start of a new conversation because I'm remembering again. It has been so dark, so foggy these last 10 months, and I would even say 4 years of being in Texas. The whole Texas season was foggy, dark, hard. Beautiful moments happened. I taught my first few sermons at church. My pastors trusted me, started a podcast with my pastor, built a solid community, got featured on some podcast about my intentional God-led marriage. Marriage is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Motherhood is easy. It's natural. It comes easy because motherhood is basically just an extension of me. Whereas marriage is me deciding each day to choose this individual that I believe God gave me. Looking back, reflecting, starting this new conversation with God, I remember during the week I went into labor, 2 weeks early, one of the elders called me and said she was in her prayer time. God highlighted me and wanted me to know that God was going to deliver my baby by way of the medical staff that he surrounded me with. The Lord had redirected my steps during that 6 week miscarriage, because I was trying to go to another clinic and he sent me to a different clinic that would accept me and do the emergency appointment and confirm everything was okay. And I just stayed with them, and they were God sent. I had 6 OBs, and the one OB that needed to deliver the baby was the OB that delivered the baby. I didn't realize until now that most OBs are not in the room the whole time, but because of my situation, she was there for basically the entire time. Despite how bad I tore, how close I was to a medical hemorrhage, I thank Jesus for keeping me. I thank God for these last 4 to 5 years of my life, my testimony, my story, because I am who I am becoming because of these experiences, to see the light again of how God's hand has been in the midst. May it encourage you to start the conversation again, that if God said it, he'll do it, and he'll orchestrate every step, that each of these moments are a part of the character refinement happening within us. It's a part of the character refinement happening within us. And I'm grateful, uncomfortable, and even a little sad today, because it's so easy to not think you have anything worth giving anymore because of the hormones and the challenges of a transition. But then when you stop and you show up with what God is giving you for now, because each day, each year, each season, each moment may change. What it looks like to show up several days down the line from now or a year from now, it's going to look different. But the fact that I'm showing up and doing what I'm supposed to do today, now, I know the Lord is pleased. And we'd have to sit in the discomfort and know that sometimes the silence is a part of God's plan, and sometimes the distance was to grow us in the maturity. And if we trust God to send us, then we also have to trust God when He tells us to go. For those of you who are new here, my name is Janae Carly. I write and create videos around the moments in the middle that shape us pertaining to identity and transitions. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that we can continue to have these conversations as God navigates us between who we are and who He's calling us to be.